Hey everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Master English Podcast. If you're ready for a mind-blowing conversation, you're in the right place. Today we're diving deep into the most important and crucial grammar, simple present tense. And trust us, this episode will leave you thinking long after it's over. Whether you're a beginner or in advanced level or just curious about learning, we've got something special lined up for you. So grab your headphones, sit back, and let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Emma, and I'm so glad you're joining us today because we're diving into one of the most fundamental parts of English grammar, tenses. Specifically, we'll be talking about the simple present and simple past tenses. These are the building blocks of how we express time in English, and understanding them is key to sounding more fluent and confident.
Hey there, I'm James, and I'm really excited to break this down with you today, Emma. Simple present and simple past might sound straightforward, but they come with their own set of rules and nuances that can confuse a lot of people. By the end of this episode, though, you'll have a solid understanding of when and how to use them. So let's get into it, starting with the simple present.
That's right, let's begin with the simple present tense. Now, the simple present is used to describe things that are generally true, things that happen regularly, or things that are permanent. So if you're talking about a routine or a fact, you'll use the simple present. For example, I wake up at 7 a.m. every day, or water boils at 100 degrees Celsius.
Exactly, Emma. And another common use of the simple present is when talking about facts, especially ones that don't change. For instance, the sun rises in the east, or cats like fish. These are things that are always true. Simple present is great for universal truths like these.
Right, so let's break it down further. In the simple present tense, the verb form is usually pretty simple. For most verbs, you just use the base form, like I play tennis, you study hard, or we read books. However, there's an important exception when you're using the third-person singular, he, she, it.
Ah, yes. When the subject is he, she, or it, we add an s or s to the verb. So instead of saying, he play tennis, you'd say he plays tennis. And with verbs that end in s, x, ksh, or shesh, you add es instead. For example, she watches TV, or it fixes easily. These small changes are something to keep in mind when using the simple present with third-person singular subjects.
Great point, James. It's important to remember that these rules only apply to the third-person singular. For example, they play soccer doesn't change because it's plural, and I eat dinner stays the same because it's first person. But let's get into some more common uses of the simple present tense. What about habits or routines, James?
Oh, definitely. We use the simple present a lot when talking about habits and routines. It's something we do regularly. For instance, I drink coffee every morning. She goes to the gym twice a week, or we usually watch movies on Fridays. These are all examples of things that happen regularly. It's the go-to tense for talking about your everyday life and what you typically do.
That's a great point. And you can also use the simple present for scheduled events in the future, especially when you're talking about public transportation or things like appointments. For example, the train leaves at 9 a.m. or the meeting starts at 3 p.m. Even though these events are in the future, we use the simple present because they are scheduled and part of a routine.
Exactly, Emma. Now let's touch on something that a lot of people get confused about, the negative form of the simple present. To make a sentence negative in the simple present, you add do not or does not before the base form of the verb. And do not becomes don't, and does not becomes doesn't in informal speech. So for example, I don't like coffee, or she doesn't play the piano.
That's right. So let's use doesn't with third-person singular subjects. He doesn't like chocolate, it doesn't work well, and she doesn't understand the question. Remember, the verb stays in its base form after doesn't, so it's not doesn't likes or doesn't understand. It's always the base form, like and understand.
Perfect. Now let's talk about questions in the simple present. If you want to ask a question, you use do or does at the beginning of the sentence. For example, do you like pizza? Or does he play basketball? And remember, does is used for third-person singular subjects like he, she, or it. So it would be, does she speak Spanish, and not, do she speak Spanish?
Exactly. And you can respond with simple answers like, yes, I do, or no, I don't. Or if the question is about the third person, you can say, yes, she does, or no, he doesn't. So the structure for questions and negatives is really important to remember, but once you've got it down, it becomes second nature.
Right. I think we've covered most of the important points for the simple present tense, but before we move on, let's quickly touch on some adverbs of frequency. These are words like always, usually, often, sometimes, and never. We use these adverbs a lot with the simple present to show how often something happens. For example, I always drink water in the morning, or he never eats vegetables.
Good call, James. Those adverbs help add more detail and give your sentences more context. You typically place these adverbs before the main verb, but after be, am, is, are. So you would say, she is always late, or I am usually tired after work. That's a great point. And you can also use the simple present for scheduled events in the future, especially when you're talking about public transportation, or things like appointments. For example, the train leaves at 9 a.m., or the meeting starts at 3 p.m. Even though these events are in the future, we use the simple present because they are scheduled and part of a routine. Right, James? The simple past is used for events that started and finished in the past. The key thing to remember is that the simple past tense is usually formed by adding ed to regular verbs. So play becomes played, talk becomes talked, and watch becomes watched.
Exactly. But there are irregular verbs too, where you can't just add ed. For example, go becomes went, eat becomes ate, and see becomes saw. Unfortunately, these irregular verbs have to be memorized because they don't follow the same pattern. So I went to the park yesterday, or she ate pizza for dinner.
Those irregular verbs can definitely be tricky, but with enough practice, you'll start remembering them more easily. Now, to form negative sentences in the simple past, we use did not or didn't. So I didn't go to the party, or she didn't watch the movie. Just like in the simple present tense, after didn't, we use the base form of the verb, not the past form. So it's didn't go and not didn't went.
That's right, and questions in the simple past are also formed with did. You'd say, did you see the movie? Or did he enjoy the concert? And just like in the negative form, after did, you use the base form of the verb, did you eat lunch? Not, did you eat lunch?
Exactly. And just like with the simple present, we use time expressions to show when something happened. For example, yesterday, last week, 2 days ago, in 2010, and so on. These help indicate that the action is finished and took place in the past.
Great point. And when talking about past actions, we also use certain time expressions, like once, twice, many times, or a few days ago. For example, I visited Paris once, or she called me a few days ago. These expressions help give more context to the action.
That's so true. So let's do a quick comparison between the simple present and the simple past. The simple present is used for habits, routines, and general truths, while the simple past is for actions that are completed and took place in the past. For example, I work from home, present, versus I worked from home yesterday, past.
Exactly, Emma. And both tenses are essential to communicating clearly in English. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become with recognizing when to use each one. Remember, it's all about understanding whether the action is happening now, simple present, or whether it's something that already happened, simple past.
And don't be discouraged if you make mistakes. Everyone does. Just keep practicing and using these tenses in your conversations. Over time, it will feel more natural.
Absolutely. We hope this episode has helped clarify the simple present and simple past tenses for you. With the right knowledge and practice, you'll start using them confidently in no time.
Thanks so much for listening today. We'll be back soon with more grammar tips and tricks to help you improve your English. Take care and keep practicing.
See you next time, everyone.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and share with a friend who needs to hear this. Be sure to follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes content and updates. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep learning. Thanks for tuning in to Master English Podcast. We'll catch you in the next episode.